far beyond the last ring of hills, where the evening light gathers like honey across the fields, there walked a wizard with a staff of ash wood and a cloak the color of dawn-faded smoke. He was not a young man, nor was he particularly old, at least not in the ways that years are counted. His beard was silvered, his hair wind-tossed, and his eyes held that curious brightness of one who has seen many wonders and still expects to find a few more before the end of the road. He had no tower, no apprentices, and no kingdom to call home. The road itself was his dwelling, and the stars his lanterns. He wandered not for duty, but for delight, for the way the morning mist would curl between the trees, for the chatter of ravens on roof beams, for the way old ruins whispered names to the ivy that crept upon their stones. And so, on a day when the air was cool and golden, the wizard came to a valley shaped like an open palm, its fingers folded into hills, and its heart holding a small, quiet village. Smoke rose from the chimneys like threads of soft wool, and the bells of the sheep clanged faintly on the far slopes. He smiled as he walked, leaning a little on his staff, his boots whispering against the road. Children peered from behind fences, and fences peered back, for the boards had eyes in the grain that watched all strangers. The people of the village were kind, as most folk are when you meet them before gossip has time to stretch its legs. They offered him bread and cheese and a small bottle of honeyed milk. He accepted each gift with a word of thanks and a small flicker of magic, a charm to keep their hearth warm through the coming night, or a little spark that made the butter glow like moonlight for a few moments before fading. He slept that night beneath an apple tree outside the village, for he liked the whisper of leaves better than any roof. And as he drifted between waking and dreaming, he heard the earth itself breathing, a slow, deep pulse beneath the roots, as if the valley were alive and dreaming with him. At dawn, a robin landed on his shoulder and sang three notes that sounded almost like a question. The wizard chuckled softly. "Oh, fair morning to you too, little herald," he said, and rose, brushing dew from his cloak. He followed the bird's gaze toward the eastern ridge, where a shimmer of light pulsed faintly above the tree line, a light not quite of sun or fire. Curiosity is a wizard's oldest friend, and so he set off toward it, winding through tall grasses and over mossy stones. The forest he entered was old, its trees straight-backed and solemn, their trunks veiled in mist. The air smelled of pine and wet earth, and here and there glimmered mushrooms as blue as stars and streams that hummed as they ran. The wizard walked until the shimmer became a soft radiance, and there in a clearing he found a pool of water so still it seemed carved from glass. Above it hovered a single tear-shaped droplet of light, suspended in the air, trembling faintly. The wizard bent near, and his reflection met him. Two faces, one of man, one of light, both uncertain which was real. He raised his hand, and the droplet quivered closer. Ah, he murmured, recognizing it at last, a memory undone. Such things sometimes appeared where magic had been strong and sorrow stronger still, a remnant of something once dearly held and lost before its time. He took a breath and whispered an old spell, a soft one that did not bind or break, but simply invited. The droplet shivered, and from within it a scene bloomed. A young woman by this very pool, her hands cupping water that sparkled with runes, and beside her a great stag crowned with light. They stood together in peace until a shadow fell, and both were gone. The image faded, leaving only the droplet, dim now and weary. Ah, said the wizard quietly, you lingered too long without a keeper. He touched it with the tip of his staff, and the droplet melted into the water with a sigh, leaving a ripple that spread out and vanished. He stayed there a while longer, watching the way light danced among the branches. A breeze stirred, carrying a whisper, perhaps only leaves, perhaps something older. He smiled again, faintly wistful. Every place remembers, he said to the air, if you listen kindly. That evening, he reached another village, smaller still, perched upon a slope where goats clambered and windmills turned lazily. The folk there were worried, for their well had gone dry, though rain had fallen often. The wizard listened, nodding, then knelt beside the well. He placed his palm upon the stone rim and closed his eyes. Beneath, he could feel the quiet struggle of the water, trapped behind a wall of stone that had shifted during some long-forgotten tremor. Nothing is gone, he murmured, only misplaced. With a slow motion, he traced a rune in the dust, a spiral of returning, and the stone groaned softly. Moments later, a trickle of water began to bubble up, clear and cold. The villagers gasped, then cheered. They pressed him to stay, but he declined gently. The road waits, he said, and the stars grow impatient when I linger too long. Still, he accepted a loaf of sweet bread for the journey and left them a charm to keep their water pure. For days he wandered on, over green meadows and past rivers that whispered secrets to their own reflections. Sometimes he walked with shepherds or merchants. Sometimes he walked alone. He mended broken charms for farmers, awakened songs from sleeping lutes, and once, when a child's toy bird lost its wings, he coaxed it to flutter again for one last flight before letting it rest. One night, while camping beside a brook, he looked into the coals of his fire and saw faces, friends long gone, masters, wanderers like himself. He thought of how magic, like the road, was not meant to be possessed but traveled. He laughed softly to himself, remembering how once he had tried to build a tower, only to find that the walls muffled the wind's stories. He left it half built and never looked back. As he drifted toward sleep, a soft voice spoke from the darkness. "You keep no home," it said. He opened one eye and saw a small fox with fur pale as moonlight, watching him from the shadows. "Everywhere is home enough," he replied. The fox tilted its head. "Then you are a guest everywhere, and a stranger too?" "Perhaps," said the wizard, "but the stars never ask my name twice." The fox studied him for a long while, then lay down near the fire. "Then I will walk with you until the next dawn," it said, and so they did. The fox padded beside him through the silver hours, quiet and graceful, pausing only to listen to the far-off call of owls. When the first light touched the horizon, it stopped. "Here my road ends," it said. "Beyond this hill lies a dream that forgot to wake." The wizard nodded, "Then wake it kindly." The fox dipped its head, and in a blink was gone, leaving only a faint shimmer of light that scattered into the dew. Beyond the hill lay a plain covered in tall golden grass that swayed like the sea. At its heart stood a single black stone, ancient and alone around it. The grass bent inward as though bowing. The wizard approached, his staff humming softly. He felt old magic here, deep, patient, and sorrowful. He laid his palm on the stone, and a pulse went through him, showing visions. A great city that once stood here, towers bright as dawn, laughter echoing in streets that now lay beneath the roots. He saw joy, then pride, then silence. When the vision faded, he stood for a long moment, the wind tugging gently at his cloak. In time, he came upon a shore. The sea was calm, silver blue, the air rich with salt and promise. A small inn stood by the dunes, its sign creaking softly, the lantern tied. He entered, and the keeper, a kindly woman with eyes like worn glass, smiled as if expecting him. "Long road?" she asked. "Always," he said. She poured him tea that smelled of clover and rain, and as he drank, the waves outside sang against the rocks. He asked if she ever feared the sea's call. No, she said. It speaks, and I listen. That is enough. He nodded. Wisdom enough for wizards, too. When night fell, he sat on the sand and watched the stars appear one by one, like old friends stepping quietly through a door. The moon rose, and its light traced silver on his staff. He wondered where he would go next, north to the frost valleys, perhaps, or west to the forests, where trees grow from clouds. But then he smiled, for he knew it did not matter. The road would choose, as it always had. He leaned back, listening to the waves. Somewhere in the dark, a ship's bell rang, soft and distant, and he thought of all the souls across the world, dreaming beneath the same stars. The wizard closed his eyes. Magic hummed gently around him, not as a force to wield, but as a lullaby, the quiet pulse of a world alive and listening. And as sleep came, he dreamed of walking again, forever wandering, forever home.